But Brandon, let's move on into our last big board topic before we make our picks for week 8 of the college football season here in 2018. And we will do it just like we did the last segment. We got 5 guys left. I will kick it over to you. What is your last 5 guys, starting at 5, bringing us all the way to numero uno?
Thanks, Ricky. Number 5, got Greedy Williams, the cornerback from LSU. At number 4, Jonah Williams, the left tackle from Alabama. At number 3, Clellan Ferrell, the defensive end from Clemson. At number 2, Ed Oliver, the defensive tackle from Houston. And at number 1, Nick Bosa, the defensive end from the Ohio.
Yeah, and I don't have many different. I think we've got one guy that is different in our top 5, and mine starts off at number 5 with Rashawn Gary, defensive end from the Michigan Wolverines. Then at number 4, Clellan Ferrell, the defensive end from that Clemson team. Then Greedy Williams, cornerback from LSU at number Trace. Then numero dos, we've got Ed Oliver, the defensive tackle from Houston. And then at numero uno, like you said, we got the boa constrictor, Nick Bosa, the defensive end from the Ohio State University. And the thing I want to ask you in this last segment is all of these guys in our top 5, even Jonah Williams, who you have in your top 5, all of these guys are quality top 5 picks in my mind. The thing I want to ask you about is something that we haven't touched on throughout this entire big board. Is when, I don't know about you, but when I was putting together my big board today, the thing that I kept thinking to myself is, holy crap, there are a ton of defensive prospects that are going to be in the top of this draft. Like I mentioned to you, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier in the podcast, but I know I mentioned it to you. You and I in our big board, your first 8 guys are either defense or offensive tackle, and my first 10 guys, my entire top 10, is either defense or offensive guys. So I want to kind of ask you, I know this is kind of be a retrospect kind of a question, but how do you think this draft class is going to shape up with all of the defensive talent and offensive line talent that we have in this draft?
Well, I think it's going to end up going down as one of the best draft classes for it. These are some absolutely great talents. I mean, you look at Nick Bosa, and I know he's coming back from injury. I know he had the core injury, but I mean, you take that away, and this guy is, some people are saying he's going to be better than his brother, and we know what his brother can do, of course, when healthy. That's the one thing that I look at and I go, well, we've already seen Joey Bosa be bitten by the injury bug. Hopefully the same thing is not happening to Nick Bosa now. You look at, again, many guys from Clemson. Clellan Ferrell has been outstanding, as so many of those other Clemson guys have been. Ed Oliver, probably not getting enough love because he's with Houston and not in the Big Ten, the SEC, something like that, but arguably the best defensive tackle in the country. Jonah Williams, I love what I see from Jonah Williams there with Alabama, the left tackle. I mean, he has helped to anchor an offensive line that has been good for a long time, and the stats from the quarterback position, the running back position certainly show it. And then Greedy Williams, the cornerback from LSU. I mean, you talk about a lockdown guy from LSU. That he is certainly one of those guys. And I think that we have a really good class, certainly for defense, coming up here in 2019.
You know what I hate that just popped into my head, and I'm not going to harp on it, but I am going to mention it. The thing that popped into my head was, let's say any of these guys are top 5 and they have a chance to be the number 1 pick. I just think back to the last few draft classes we've had. Josh Allen last year. You've got Laramie Tunsil, I believe, the year before. which one of these guys is going to have something come out on draft night? Like, that's the thought that I don't know why it popped into my head, but that is what popped into my head, because I'm thinking the same thing you are. Like, Nick Bosa is phenomenal. I know that he's got his injury going right now, the pectoral injury, but every word that I've read, nobody thinks that that is going to be a problem come draft time for Nick Bosa. Greedy Williams is probably one of my favorites, and that's why I have him at 3 compared to your 5, because I think that there's a consensus for big boards that Nick Bosa number 1, Ed Oliver number 2. It's just who are you going to put at number 3? And for me, I love that lockdown corner. Like, give me a great lockdown corner, and I can go ahead and kind of build my team around that. Now, pass rush might be a little bit more important than that lockdown corner in this age, but I think that Greedy Williams and his lockdown ability is better than a Gary, better than a Farrell, especially Gary. He's one that the production hasn't been there. He's got to show a little bit, and that's why I still put him at 5, but he could be even higher if his production was a little bit better this year. But the thing that I want to ask you about is, I know that you put Jonah Williams ahead of Greg Little if we're looking at offensive tackle rankings. Why did you put, like, what to you makes you put Jonah Williams as your number 1 offensive tackle?
Well, I think just because of you look at the fact of, again, what he's done to help anchor this offensive line for Alabama. Mm-hmm. And that goes to look at what they've done in the running game and then what these quarterbacks have been able to do. And it's been his help on the side. He's done a great job of aiding this, I think, offensive line that's been so good. I just want to put in a couple of things. Bama had, back in 2016, they had over 2,500 yards, 17 touchdowns on the ground from their running backs. In 2017, they had over 2,700 yards and 28 touchdowns from their running backs. And I think it's also Williams' ability to be able to kind of get that edge, and his kind of his quickness and his technique, I think, is good enough to really protect that quarterback and open up the lanes for the running back to the outside. This is a guy who I really, really like, and I like him because the stats are just there. I mean, so many people for a long time, they wanted Tua to be the quarterback at Alabama over Jalen Hurts anyways, right? But this offensive line, and Jonah Williams included, helped to make Jalen Hurts look really, really good and give him a ton of time, and then be able to allow him the ability to run. Now, a lot of that's on Hurts, but he still has the protection to be able to do that. I really like Williams. He's been part of a great offensive line there at Alabama, and I think he's just going to continue to get better.
Now, for me, the thing that, because mine are pretty much neck and neck. Like, for a big board, I put Little over Williams, but, like, if I'm going NFL draft style, it really depends on what the team needs as well, because the thing that I look at is, the thing I love about Jonah Williams is the position that he plays of right tackle. And if you can solidify that right tackle spot, then everything.
Left tackle, doesn't he?
Left. I mixed them up. Then Greg Little's on the right. Greg Little is on the right. The thing that I like about Jonah Williams is that he's on the left side, and that's the blind side. Thank you for the correction, because I'm looking and I'm like, wait, did I just mess up what sides that they're on? One's right.
I was going to say that's why that's why I love Jonah Williams too, is because of the fact. I mean, that's the blind side, and that's when again, for me it just goes to the fact of giving Jalen Hurts and now Tua. I mean, they're both really good quarterbacks, but giving them so much time to be able to make plays.
Let me see here, because I know. Oh, that's what it was. That's what I mixed up. So Greg Little's also a left tackle, It's that Jonah Williams lined up as right tackle in 2016, and then he got moved to the left side. That's why I had right tackle on my brain. I want to ask you this, though, about Jonah Williams. Is there a chance in the NFL he gets moved to guard? Or do you think that he'll be a left tackle?
Actually, yes. I think that there is a chance that he gets moved to guard, and I think that he might even be higher if he is. If he's moved to guard, if teams start talking with him and they say, if we move you to guard, is that something that you would be concerned about, still be able to do, blah, blah, blah. That's something that I think actually raises his stock in the NFL if that happens.
Yeah, and I mean, that to me is another thing that now I'm kind of second-guessing myself, putting Greg Little above Jonah Williams. But however way you look at it, you've got Jonah Williams in your top 5. I've got Little at 6, and then Williams at 8. So it's not like they're separated by much. This is my final thought, and then I've got one last question for you. When it comes to this draft, kind of what I've asked you before with all the defensive players and offensive tackles that we have, is I think that we could get, there's a yin and yang to this. I think we can get a draft class very similar to 2013, and I know what people are doing right there. They're kind of cringing a little bit because quarterback-wise, that was not a very good draft, but out of that draft, we got defensive and tackle guys in the first round like Lane Johnson. We got Ezekiel Ansah. Eric Reed was from that draft. Kyle Long, Tyler Eifert, that's an offensive one. Xavier Rhodes. Later on, you had the DeAndre Hopkins that was taken. The Darius Slays for the Detroit Lions. I think that this draft, to me, we're going to compare it to that one, but we're going to go, wow, this was a better version of that draft class. Because the one thing that this draft class will have, and you and I didn't even have some of these guys in our big board that could really start to rise as this season kind of continues a little bit, is there's, I'm trying to look it up right now. There's a guy from Michigan that's there's Chase Winovich who is going to rise up, and there's several other pass rushers behind him that are just kind of nipping at the bud to try to get into the first round. So that's what I can't wait for the rest of this year, is what guys kind of jump their way into big boards that we look at our last one. I think we're doing, a total of 5. So yeah, we look at our 5th one and go, whoa, this guy's like in our top 10, and we didn't have him even in the top 25 when this all started. The thing I will ask you, and I ask you this every single big board, Brandon, give me one guy from your 6 through 15 that you think has a chance to jump into the top 5 when we do our next big board. And that date will be, where is it? In December 3rd. So by December 3rd, who's going to jump into the into the top 5 that is not right now?
I'm just going to go out on a limb a little bit here. I'm going to say Justin Herbert.
I mean, that's one that if he plays well and a team like the Giants continues to kind of fall, he's one that might come up. To me, he's going to be in my top 10 probably in the second big board. But I don't know with me, because I've got him a little bit lower. He could be one that, is it a shock that we don't have a quarterback in the top 5?
No.
I mean, we talked about this draft class in general, but I mean, usually it's one quarterback is kind of in that top 5 discussion because of just the position that they play. The guy I'm going to go with is, and this is one that I am going to kind of maybe predict, but not really. There's a chance to me that in mine, Dexter Lawrence and Colin Farrell switch spots, where Dexter Lawrence will be in the top 5, Farrell will be out of it because of just how interchangeable It's like, what do you need? Do you need a pass rusher or an inside presence? So that's the one that I kind of look at. I also look at Devin White, and what does he become? He's a converted running back that's now playing linebacker, and if he continues to do well, there's a chance he could even be in the top 5 with our next big board. I'll ask you, any final thoughts before we move on into our pickaroonies for Week 8?
No.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think down below in that comment section. What do you think of the top 5? Who would you have where? What would your top 5 be? And also, what are your thoughts on this draft class, this heavily defensive draft class that it seems to be right now? Let us know what you think down below in that comment section.